Hello and welcome to another episode of Creative Conversations. I'm your host, Brianna Elmore, and today we have an amazing creative guest to share with you guys, to drop gems and all of the good things in between. I'm so excited about this. So without further ado, let me read her bio. Then she gonna tell you and confirm what's been said in the bio, and we're gonna have an amazing time on this episode here today. So we have Estelle Avbuere, and so let me get down to it. Okay. Estelle has studied psychology at Virginia Commonwealth University and supplemented her studies with voice and music classes. And now, while temporarily working in healthcare, she sings, acts, and dances and hosts her own amazing podcast, Creatively by Estelle, a podcast for creative and performing artists. She is determined to help other beginner musical theater performers and vocalists grow their creative gifts through her emerging voice coaching business. She's finally pursuing her God given dream of being an artist and inspiring other artists. And she's happy to bring other creatives along for the ride, honey. That sounds like she belongs right here on this podcast. And we're so excited to have you. Without further ado, here is Estelle.
Thank
Yay!
you. That was such a beautiful intro.
You're welcome. You're welcome, honey. The bio stands alone.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
the bio doesn't need too much else. Um, it sounds like you're incredibly creative oriented, and we're super excited to have you here. Is so tell us a little bit about yourself, because we know that
Yeah,
other people can say it and read it and whatever, but give us a little bit more about yourself.
sure. Well, thank you so much, Brianna, for that introduction. It was really kind. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited. I know that you are creative and you inspire so many creatives with your show, and including myself, because I've listened. And so thank you. Yeah, so my name's Estelle. I'm 23 years old, so I'm a little young, but I've always just had this passion and drive for being creative and being in the arts since I was young. And I grew up, I'm the daughter of hardworking, incredible, God-fearing Nigerian immigrants. They immigrated to America a couple years before my older sister was born, and then I came right after. And so now we live in North Carolina. So I'm in the South, but yeah, I think because I grew up in a Nigerian culture, I also went to an African church, so because of that, like because of that upbringing, I always just had this like determination that whatever I want to do, I want to be as good as I can be. I want to be the best that I can be, to and to be of service to other people, I think too, because my parents are both in the healthcare field. And so I think that has always been a driver is yes, wanting to be the best I can be, but also like impacting others and being of service. And I just didn't really think that, even though I loved the arts, I just didn't really see that as like, oh, that's helping people, or like that can be of service to people through the arts or through being creative. It was just like, oh, that's just something you do for fun, even though you love it.
Mhm.
Um, but the older that I got, when I was young, I was obsessed with fashion. Like I wanted to be a fashion designer. That was like my big dream. And then as I got older, I started doing more theater. I started dancing in church, singing in church. A lot of singers start in church,
Mhm.
especially in the South, right? So I started singing in church, dancing. I would choreograph pieces in church. And again, I went to a like predominantly African church. So sometimes they'd be more like West African style dances, Nigerian style dances. And I started acting as well in church and in school. And I would sing choir at school, took piano lessons, dance lessons in the community. And so, yeah, I was just like, and my older sister and I were just like very entrenched in the arts. And then my younger sister came along too. Even she was like, she grew up in the arts too. So we all had that upbringing. And I think, and the older I got, as I started to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, like going into college and everything, you always like everyone has that pressure of like, oh, what are you gonna choose? Like, what are you gonna do with the rest of your life? at 17 years old, and I was 17 when I graduated high school, because I was a little bit young for my grades. So I and I had like this really interesting experience in high school because I went to a predominantly white high school, very small private Christian high school in North Carolina. And I also had like my African home upbringing too. So it was this kind of like dichotomy of different cultures and experiences. So I always like I found race identity and like stereotypes and prejudice and like all that stuff really interesting, especially in high school. And because of that, I think I was drawn to sociology, like in topics in that in that field when it came to like writing papers and stuff. And we had to do a thesis in order to graduate. And my thesis had to do with some sociology and psychology themes regarding like race identity. And because of that, I got drawn into psychology and I was like, I love this. Like, I'm so interested in, how we think, why we think the way that we think, and what impacts the way that we think as individuals, how culture, society, all these things, including the arts, impact the way that we think as humans. And so, yeah, so I went to college, studied psychology. I still wanted to do music, like, I still loved the arts and I wanted to be creative. So I minored in music for a little bit. Long story short, I ended up with the chemistry minor because I was pre-med as well. And that's just like a little,
You just kind of like, it's like, let's put
yeah,
a cap on that and let's just kind of figure that out.
right. I did not
Because
know what I was doing, but
yeah,
I knew
I've
that,
been there. I've been there with the minor. It's like
yeah,
you thought the minor was going to be the major and you
it did
no
not end up that
longer want to
way.
continue. So it's like, well, I'm not going to undo all the work I just did.
Right.
So I'm going to let that ride.
Right. It was because of my pre-med classes. And honestly, at the end of the day, like, yes, I would have preferred a music minor, but I'm grateful that I got the education that I got because, you know, like we were just saying before this, everything is a journey and you learn along the way. Oh, this happened. And looking back, would I do things differently? Maybe, but maybe not, because you have to go through certain things to learn certain things. And that's what I discovered. And so, going out of college, leaving college, I graduated a semester early, in December 2019, and then came home, and then COVID happened. So
Oof.
I known that I, was expected to kind of follow the, medical route, the healthcare route that was like the safer choice for a career. And even though I knew that I love psychology, but I also love the arts and I wanted to do something creative and still incorporate, my love for mental health somehow. And I didn't know what I was doing. And then COVID happened and I was like, you know what? Let's just keep going,
I
let's
think
just
that
keep
that's
going.
what
Yeah.
COVID has it's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's been draining on everybody. It's taken a lot from
Yes.
people. Be it experiences or other people or any
Right.
kind of thing, just different freedoms. It's taken a lot, but I will say I think at least what I've understood and taken away from it personally was just
Yeah.
kind of the spirit of why not. And so
Right.
that's like, why not do this now? Because it's like you can literally see all these like very tangible instances of not having the time or shoulda, coulda, wouldas on
Hmm.
as far as like feeling regret that I didn't do this. Because it's like if we were ever reminded how, short life can be or whatever, it's right now. So I feel like that is kind of being like the gas under people's behinds, the light, like
Yes.
lighting the fires under people's behinds to kind of get up and get active in whatever it is that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's scary, but so are like everything is scary at this point in time. So it's just kind of like, you need to take the time to move forward and push despite maybe it might be uncomfortable or maybe it's kind of like a different terrain to kind of
Right.
maneuver, but it's just like that spirit of, okay, well, why not? And then why not me to do whatever this is, right? So it's just kind of like, let's go, let's do it, and let's attack it from multiple angles and multiple disciplines. So I love that your story came
Absolutely.
together in this way, that you were able to figure out, okay, maybe I wouldn't have done it wrong. Because I think sometimes the misconception when you go from not creative oriented positions to more creative oriented is saying like, I wish I never I don't know. Have you ever heard, like, the Donnell Jones? I think is it. Wait, no, is it Donnell Jones? And I wish I never met her at all. You ever? It's like that.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
song,
I feel
right?
like I have.
But it's like
I feel
it's
like I
not that
should
I.
have.
It's a cult classic. You're gonna have to run it back, okay?
Yes,
Because it's
ma'am.
like it was love at first sight. I know. You gotta listen to it, okay? And I talk in lyrics, so in my mind, that's where my head went. Was just like, you know, I wish I never did it at all. No, I'm okay that I did that because I'm still some things that I can take from this jurisdiction of study, right? That you may
Right.
think in the most intricate way, you dealing with something in this manner can contribute to yourself creatively, right? Because you have this understanding of people, because you have this understanding of chemistry. You understand what is and what's not as you create a different reality with what talents you have. I think that that's important. So I love that you said that you wouldn't necessarily change that field.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wish that I would have changed my jurisdiction of study in the beginning so that I can maybe be in a different place or have had the opportunity to do different things like internship opportunities and all those
Yeah.
type of things. But I don't regret I don't regret my degree. So my degree's in finance. So it's
Oh,
completely not creative. But
wow.
I don't hate it. I just wish I would have been able to have like that formal training with like broadcast and cinematic art. If I could do it all over again, I would go back for that
Right.
back then. You know what I'm saying? And it was that's a difficult program, but I would have really applied to it and tried to do that. But
Yeah.
I don't regret my finance at all. I still work in finance today and it's not a bad thing. So
Yeah.
I definitely get it.